Hey everyone, welcome to the Field Between.
You sound like you've just gone through like a personal conflict.
Huh?
Hi everyone, I'm Yasmin.
I'm Ahmed.
Ahmed's really sick.
I'm very sick.
So I was sick.
Yeah.
Did we record while I was sick?
I don't know.
I was sick for I think I already said I was sick after the semester ended. But then I got worse and I was sick for like a full week. And I would say like it was 7 days of being incredibly sick. And then since then I'm like 98% better. But still a little tired. And now it took me a full week, but then I infected Ahmed.
Yeah,
and now he's down.
because you drank out of my cup when we were sharing brisket. I think that's what did it.
You also shared a water bottle with me in the car. We shared water multiple times.
We shared a water bottle?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
No, I had a water bottle and you had some.
In the car?
I think so, on the way there.
No.
Really?
No, we had separate water bottles. I got them from my parents' house.
But I mean, we're all over each other. It's not like we tried that hard to be separate. But I mean, I would have been surprised if you didn't. I tried a little bit. I didn't kiss you. I didn't cuddle up to your head. I tried to.
Was that was because I pushed you? That's because I pushed you away.
No.
You would come and you'd be like, "Oh, you cuddle," and then you would cough on me, and I'd be like, "Okay, maybe turn your head the other way."
I don't think it's fair. Okay, is this bad? I feel like if you live with someone, you know, it just happens.
You want to finish that thought?
It's just you get each other sick. I wasn't hoping to get you sick. I thought you dodged a bullet, seriously, because we went that full week and you were okay.
This shit sucks.
I know.
Yeah, it feels pretty bad.
I don't think you realized how sick I was, so I'm kind of glad that you know now.
What makes you say that?
Because the first couple days I was super out of it, and I just don't think I don't think I was doing a good job expressing it. But yeah, it was bad. It's not like an average cold, but it's sad to watch you go through it.
Do you feel like I was strenuously pushing you or making it harder?
No, but I think it wasn't until I was sick for like the fourth day that you were like, oh, like doing the normal things that you do when you realize I'm sick. I think you just, I don't know. Yeah. I don't think I was telling you how bad I felt.
Oh.
It just seemed like a cold, but I was like, nah, dude, this is not good.
Interesting.
But everyone we know is sick right now. Like a lot of people. It's unfortunate times.
Yeah.
Yeah. We think it's RSV, but we don't know.
How was your year?
This isn't our last podcast of the year, is it? We've got one more. Wow, we're ending.
No, I'm asking you how your year was.
Just in general?
Yeah.
Good.
Our last we're probably not going to have this discussion on our last podcast.
Well, we shouldn't make that the last one then. That's kind of a rough end.
It's just how things are.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then we should discuss it, I guess. You're right. It was a really good year. I'm trying to think. I mean, so much happened.
If you had to describe it in one word.
Just change.
Change.
Yeah. I mean, wait, 2023, right?
Yeah.
We moved in together in 2023, right? No, we moved together in 2022.
No, we got married more than a year ago.
Yeah. But okay, we were still like newlyweds living together. We moved states together. I got a job.
Yeah.
Started Caravanserai here. Yeah.
Wow.
I felt like it was a big year. It was a good year. I mean, it's also like a sad year. Yeah. Externally, but yeah. I don't know.
Do you want to hear how Eric Adams answers this question?
Okay, yeah.
If you had to describe it, and it's tough to do, in one word, what would that word be, and tell me why?
New York. This is a place where every day you wake up, you could experience everything from a plane crashing into our trade center to a person who's celebrating a new business that's open. This is a very, very complicated city, and that's why it's the greatest city on the globe.
Mm-hmm. When you look at the
I just love that so much that he's asked in one word how he would sum up the year, and he says New York.
I think that makes sense.
And you can experience anything from a 9/11 as if a 9/11 is just like a recurring regular event in New York City. Yeah. As regular as just going down to like a
new business,
a new halal cart or something opening up on the
I will
block.
say, out of all the deranged things Eric Adams has said, that's not too bad. But
I love that. He's like, in one word, and he's like, New York.
Yeah.
Where our buildings blow up.
Words,
and also a small business, which is, I mean, I guess by number, my guess is probably a lot more large businesses open up in New York. I don't know how many small businesses are.
And we also have a lot of small businesses, especially kind of like carts. But yeah, it's not easy, obviously. Yeah. We're going to New York on Saturday.
Yeah.
Inshallah, you're feeling better then.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Oh, other updates. We went to North Carolina.
Can you hand me that
Yeah.
notebook over there?
We saw your brother graduate, which was so fun. We're so proud of him. That was really
good.
fun.
He did a good job.
And we we got to have lunch after. We got to see your parents. Everyone was kind of sick, so that was a little bit of a damper. Like, we were sick, your parents were sick.
Mm-hmm.
But we hadn't seen them since we left North Carolina. We got to stay with your really good friend, our very good friend in Charlotte, so that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a good time. We ate brisket and we had biscuits, so that was very efficient and good.
It was good, yeah. I got some good Southern food.
Yeah, that I was really missing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're so sad and cute when you're sick. You're like a cute little baby. You are. You are. It's so cute. Yesterday you were in such toddler like mode, which is really cute because I feel like I can be like that quite a bit, but you're never really like that. Just like really playful and adorable and kind of helpless. Like you.
You're talking about when I was deciding whether I wanted to go out or not?
Yeah, but it was like so gentle and sweet, and you were like, I'm gonna go for a walk, and I was like, okay. Because also the sad thing that happened to both of us is kind of like the week that we had off is when we were sick. So like,
yeah,
like now I have some work this week, but I was planning on taking a whole kind of week to just chill and like redo my wardrobe and stuff and like little small tasks. And that week I was just spent like totally out. And a similar thing for you this week. You had some creative projects you wanted to work on. So I think, yeah, there's like a sadness with that. But you were going to go for a walk and you got all dressed up in your big puffy jacket and you were like, I don't want to go now. I was like, okay, baby.
Yeah, I was tired.
Yeah. Sad. You're such an active person. I feel like it's also especially hard for you to be kind of like still and sick.
Is the tea kettle going?
It sounds like it, right?
Yeah.
Did I wish the tea into existence?
No, we didn't turn on the stove. Right?
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay, there's just a weird whistling.
Yeah, maybe. The house is a little haunted.
Yeah.
Especially in the winter. Oh my gosh, it snowed here. And it was so pretty.
That was nice.
Pittsburgh is like, I love Pittsburgh. It's not like a beautiful city. I mean, there's beautiful architecture, but it's kind of got like a sort of gritty feeling in a good way. Mm-hmm. But it looks really beautiful in the snow. It's like really meant for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was good. We went for a walk then, and that was nice.
Yeah, I got really good hot chocolate. And there's this new Bulgarian pastry place walking distance to us. It's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got like all of our food spots down now, which is nice.
Yeah.
How was your year?
Okay. If I had to sum it up, I think I would say it was very New York.
It was very Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah.
Probably be better for us.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my first time living outside of North Carolina.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Lots of big changes, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. I
reflection over.
have one story, but I feel like we should maybe update on was there something someone hopped in our DMs after the last episode.
Oh yeah. And I appreciated their point, honestly.
I did not.
I know. But
I thought it was
I wish I'd written this out. I forgot this, but I'll just do my best off the cuff. I wanted to clarify, though. Hopefully, it was clear. I think
it was very clear.
Okay.
I think we stated it with exceptional clarity. This person's just got a bad reading of what we said.
Let's be generous. We don't know this person. We would never speak this way about someone that we knew.
Say your name.
To clarify,
yeah.
Can I just? I'll do my best.
You say what you want.
So I think what I wanted to say
should I read what they said?
I wouldn't. I feel like that's a little bit.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
also, we encourage DMs. We really appreciate people reaching out to us, and I'm not speaking for myself. I don't mind constructive criticism.
Actually, I will say I think it's important context. They did say that we, since we spoke about the need for investigation of, certain allegations on the last episode, that then means that we do not believe anything that happened. So that's kind of like the gist of what was said.
Yeah. So I guess this is not like a direct answer to that, but I hope that it was clear from the last episode. And I just want to say, in case it wasn't for anyone, that I'm not saying that there is no possibility that there was sexual violence perpetrated against people during the October 7th attacks. All violence, including sexual violence against innocent people, is horrific. What I was interested in is the kind of imbalance of press coverage given all of the violence, sexual and otherwise, that has been perpetuated against Palestinians, and how little press coverage that gets proportionally. And I think that's worth talking about. And I think you can definitely do both. You can say, let's investigate this, let's look into it, and let's also acknowledge, why is this getting so much more press coverage? And is there something a little bit opportunistic about that or sinister about that? And I think that there is. So I think, yeah, I hope it's clear that it's not like I'm not an investigative journalist. I don't know. And I think that we have done a good job maintaining, and this is not a point of pride, it's just a point of basic humanity, that again, like, all violence is awful and depressing and not something that we're trying to, sweep under the rug.
Yeah, I'll speak for myself. I just feel like that if that's what you take away from the last episode, I think then you're doing the thing that we were kind of speaking against and speaking to in that last episode, where any questioning of the narrative or any support for Palestinians is seen as not support for Palestinians, but support for Hamas, who is a group that they then demonize and then use to kind of make barbaric and insinuations about Arabs and Arab men in general, and to then say that, like, you support barbarism. I just feel like it's a kind of a bad faith way of coming at it, rather than and then speaking of bad faith,
I was gonna say, yeah,
there is if you want to like hear more about it, and what we both listen to and think is an excellent discussion. So Brianna Joy Gray, who's a journalist, was at The Intercept and then was like the Bernie communications director for a little while. She has a podcast called Bad Faith, and she posted an interview with a woman whose name I don't remember, but the title of the
law, yeah,
Heidi Matthews. She was a professor at law. Yeah. So the title
at York in Canada. Yeah.
So the title is kind of playing off of a hashtag, I guess, that some people tried to get going. It's called Me Too Unless You're a Jew, which is kind of the critique that Zionists have been making and saying that, like, you guys were saying believe women, and now where are you? Like, you're not, so it applies to everyone except for us. It was a really excellent discussion, and like, again, like a very hard discussion to have, but I think she did it about as well as it could be.
Yeah, done. I would definitely recommend that. I think that they had a lot of nuance. They hit on legal aspects that we don't know and aren't able to speak to, that were really interesting, thinking about international law. Would highly recommend. Yeah,
for sure. I think somewhat related, there are a couple things I have in my notes. We don't really have to stay on any of them for too long, but because you have an article.
I've got later. 2 items, yes.
You got 2 items?
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to do those first?
Sure. Are they, yeah, that works for me.
Or what do you?
I'm down for either way. Whatever you think flows better.
I was going to just mention some, like, things related to, I guess, what we're talking about now. So let me do that real quick. And I think in the last couple of weeks we haven't updated, but like, there's an attempt to ban the use of the word genocide now, because I feel like we're getting to the point where Israel and its supporters cannot actually like hide the footage coming out of Gaza, and like have no way of justifying any of the destruction that's been going on, and some of the statements that have been given by Israeli officials, where people say that this is about destruction and causing as much damage as possible. But there's just been like attempts to say, hey guys, well,
what is genocide really?
What is genocide? Also, let's problematize this, and maybe let's think about if it's appropriate to use the word genocide.
A lot of I think it's just like hilarious. They're trying to censor the conversation in order to take away from talking about the substance of what is happening. Like every week it feels like there's a new term that it's like, well, if you didn't use the phrase from the river to the sea, if you didn't say genocide, and it's like, no, you just don't want us to talk about what's actually happening. Like, it's not that we're not doing it correctly, you're just trying to censor speech. And it's such a weird reversal of a lot of the tactics that the right accuses the left of like over fixation on language and like, I don't know, it's strange.
I Yeah, because like you said, like the discussion then just becomes about like, well, this is why it's genocide, and then you're just like, again, you're not talking about how you're going to stop the genocide.
Yeah.
So
also, another one of my favorite things has been like, don't call it a colonial project. I mean, whatever you think of Zionism, early Zionists called it a colonial project. Like that is
like
that was the historical endeavor. Yeah, that's not like a new wave leftist revisionism. Like that is primary source.
Well, that's the thing is just like a lot of what's been happening in the last couple of weeks, and this was happening from the beginning. It's just like you see something very clearly with your eyes, and then they send their stupidest people up on TV or to write an article to just like try to gaslight you into thinking that you're wrong, or you know. So it's like, don't use genocide, don't say colonial project. We're not. There's a. I don't know if you saw the interview, but there was a woman. I forget her name, but she was like an official and was pretty much just saying, it's like, oh, we haven't bombed any churches and we haven't really bombed any hospitals.
If a ceasefire means the return of the hostages and the dismantlement of a genocidal regime that has stated that they're going to attack us again, then everybody would be in favor of a ceasefire. But if a ceasefire means that we're just going to keep them quiet for a bit until they attack again, then it's Israel's obligation to defend its citizens and destroy that threat, don't you think?
Why is it necessary, is reported, to start shooting, having snipers outside a church?
I saw the reports this morning. The church, there are no churches in Gaza, so I'm not quite sure where the report is talking about.
There's a Catholic church in there, isn't there? That is.
Yeah, unfortunately, there are no Christians because they were driven out by.
Well, respectfully, there are Christians, because I spoke to an MP yesterday who has family members in the church who are Christians.
Well, I don't know what happened. I don't know who was attacked. I didn't see the report.
Apparently, like, the Christians who have been there for like centuries are at like a risk of like having their entire like family bloodlines like erased. Like they're down to crazy small numbers. There are still Christians, but there are no Christians,
and also there's no genocide happening.
Yeah,
you know, it's fucking wild. Like, they just send like the most ghoulish people up on TV and just like bold-face just repeat whatever lies they need to just confuse people. I feel like there's no.
I think it also is supposed to stop people from organizing and give like a rallying point for people who are Zionist, kind of be like, to kind of like gum things up, or like especially in administrative like companies or in government or in universities, like point to this one thing, you know.
What's the other thing that's been going on is they had a bunch of, this is not really all that interesting, but a bunch of investors, and like there was like a little delegation of people from the US who went to Israel, among them like the managing director of like Harvard's investment fund. I feel like there's like a little bit of rebellion against Claudine Gay, and
he's the Harvard president.
The Harvard president.
I had two more updates. So last episode, in addition to talking about the sexual assault allegations, we also talked in depth about the hearings. And right after we published that episode, or perhaps even before we published it, the president of UPenn was forced out. So that's kind of how that. We didn't say that
on that episode?
Sorry?
We didn't say that on that episode?
No, it was before that had happened.
Really?
Yeah. So that was sort of how that played out.
Mm-hmm.
Other update that I had, just kind of in my continual following of New York Times and NPR coverage, it's getting a little bit better, a little late. And I think that's part of the problem and almost feels a little bit by design. I think, I mean, this is maybe my own bias and just take, but I think NPR has been a little bit more balanced. Like the Times has been really awful. But they both are starting to publish a little bit more sympathetic coverage. I guess they also have no choice just because of the sheer number of people that have died. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so what are your items?
My first one is somewhat related, and I think that we talked about it a little bit, but I thought it would still be fun for the podcast or interesting. So this is a picture of an older man with a beard. It's a Times article.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And it says, he was set to play Santa. His views on the Middle East got in the way.
Yeah.
So Wait, quick aside, actually, that's not related to this at all, but one of our dear friends and neighbors that I grew up with on my block in Brooklyn and Clinton Hill, who since passed, he died of cancer, unfortunately. One of the cutest things about him was how much he looked like Santa Claus, and regularly he would be on the subway and like little children would come up to him and be like, this is what I want for Christmas, and he always played along. Like he always like went for it. It was really, really sweet. He was like an old white man, like a really big beard. He definitely had kind of a magical feel to him. But anyway, this is just like a random guy who always used to play Santa, and he took it really seriously. He's 70. He has like a beard that he grows out. He rides through like this little area at Sag Harbor, Long Island. And he received an email from the president of the Chamber of Commerce telling him that he couldn't play Santa because he was too outspoken.
He's being dismissed.
Yeah. And so he
dishonorably discharged from Santa duties.
He had like spoken out, not really even that much in support of Palestine. He was more just like, there are two sides to this, and like Netanyahu's administration is really bad. And you know, there's a lot of propaganda happening. He wasn't like free Palestine.
No, there's yeah, so my recollection of the article is that he was at some sort of town board meeting or something like that, and
yeah, it was in a local synagogue.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's local synagogue, and they had these people speaking to the to everyone about anti-Semitism.
No, I'm just speaking about the crisis specifically.
About Israel.
About after October 7th.
It was titled
not
Answering the Tough Questions About Israel-Palestine.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was the title of that seminar.
There were speakers from the American Jewish Committee, which is a nonprofit advocacy group that supports Israel.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was like, wow, I mean, like, I love Israel. He said I love Israel, but like you guys
He said I love Israel and Palestine.
Which,
like, whatever.
But you guys sound like mouthpieces for the Netanyahu government.
He's critical of Netanyahu's government.
Yeah. Which a lot of Israelis are as well.
Yeah, and this is what's so crazy about this. So here's the quote. I love Israel and I love Palestine. I do not think that those are contradictory thoughts and emotions.
Yeah.
This is like obviously not something that either you or I would say. This is not like a super pro-Palestine statement.
Right.
And yet it was like too far. And also he like had worked in the Middle East. He like in the financial sector, he speaks Arabic. So it's something that makes sense that he probably is like a little bit more well-read and versed in than the average person that was there. But yeah, I mean, he was really sad.
You gotta stop moving that mic around so much.
He was really sad to be dismissed. And it was just like, I know, I'm not going to mention who they are, obviously, but I think we know personally at least two people who have been fired from their jobs. One we're fairly sure. We should confirm and ask her. I'm curious. But one who's Jewish, one who is Arab, not Palestinian, but Arab, both fired for speaking out in support of Palestine, which is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very different industries, but yeah.
Yeah, I was asking you, I was wondering if there was anyone reading that article who's like an anti-Semitic Zionist Christian who was just like, first they got Jesus and now they got Santa.
I don't know.
And just like fuming over seeing that some sort of conspiratorial right-wing Christian.
Take out Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think it's funny that the event was titled Answering the Tough Questions About Israel-Palestine, and like I don't even remember what question that he was asking them, but like he was, clearly they couldn't even do that themselves.
Yeah.
Like the way that they actually answer the questions anytime they're pressed on anything is to just be like, you're being anti-Semitic.
Yeah,
actually.
no,
you can't use genocide.
100%
you
censorship.
can't say that's their move. It's just like, oh well, you support beheading of babies, and actually you want to put babies in a microwave and you want to eat them, and it's fucking nuts. Okay, what was the other item?
I sent this to you. This is real. I googled it to check, but
am I supposed to play?
No. I mean, like, it's not your first time seeing it, but it's still great. This is a real academic position.
Oh yeah.
At the Harvard Kennedy School that opened up, and it's called the Henry Kissinger Professorship of Statecraft and World Order.
Yeah.
So
how like dubious does that sound like, or you know, like, or like
especially the world
like
order
sinister.
part. Yeah.
It's just
it's
kind of, it's almost as if you were to have like an Illuminati chair of
absolutely.
You know,
it's really funny because like
of a regime change.
Yeah, I mean they're asking for an academic understanding of like policy and history,
Mhm.
but the title makes it sound like you're about to like do some world order shit. Like that's what they're hiring for
Yeah.
you to like fuck some stuff up. The Kennedy
Yeah.
School is crazy, man. When I was at Harvard at the Divinity School, which I think the Div School and the Education School, they're not perfect, but they are like the better parts, the more places that are like less soulless in Harvard, in my opinion. Especially the Ed School, a lot of really cool people. But yeah, I remember Sean Spicer got fired finally from Trump's administration, and the Kennedy School just like snapped him up, and just like that kind of shit would happen all the time. Like just
Yeah.
people who like obviously have no talent or intellectualism, it's just like a craven connection to power. It was very funny.
I was gonna say, if you could get the Clintons out of New York, I feel like Hillary would be like the perfect fit for that. But I don't think they'll ever leave New York.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot.
But
of
she might
people
get
who
run
would
out
be-
of Columbia. Who knows?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No. Yeah, I just thought it was funny.
Yeah. Are you gonna apply?
No, I'm not in public policy.
Oh, okay. But if you were,
Then yeah.
then yeah, you would take that chair.
Yeah.
Really?
No. Also, I mean, I don't know what I would do at the Kennedy School. I'd be so
Yeah.
confused.
I wonder who funded it, or if it was just like his estate after he died.
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. They might have just had an opening anyway, and
Yeah.
then they decided to name it after him.
Yeah. Have you seen this? The guy, what's his name? Bill Ackman. I think he's just like he's been going off on Twitter about the campus like anti-Semitism stuff. He's I think he's like a billionaire hedge fund manager or whatever, and like a graduate of Harvard, and he's been just like tweeting every day nonstop about Claudine Gay and wanting to just like investigate stuff and like fund chairs and departments and all these things. And he's been talking about how a couple years ago he like gifted Harvard some stock that he had bought. Like he gifted it from his like hedge fund, and then had like a contract with them where it like increased in value. If it increased in value, he gets to allocate the capital gains above a certain amount
Okay.
at like to the different departments he wants. And then it turned out that Harvard, like, so he went back and he was just several years later, and that stock had like 10x'd in price. So it was like worth a lot of money, like I think like a $1 million gift or something like that turned into like $100 million gift, or 10 million or something like that. $10 million gift turned into $100 million. And he's like, wow, great. Like, let me go in and like see how I get to allocate this money. And he found out that Harvard had like sold the stock like years and years ago.
Oh no.
And he was so pissed. He was like, no, we had an agreement. And I just couldn't help but think, like, tough shit, motherfucker. If you like don't know how to like write up your contract so that it prevents Harvard from selling the stock.
That's
then,
kind of funny though, because I mean, also probably Harvard would have made more money if they had waited. But
he's like one of these guys. Yeah. So he's like trying to go after Harvard right now to say that Harvard needs to let him allocate $70 million of its budget to how he wants.
Because
And he wants to like do some like anti-Semitism programming or center or
Interesting.
something like that, which Harvard already has.
of course,
Like an
yeah.
anti-Semitism center, and like very qualified, I mean, obviously Jewish studies people, and like
I'm
very
sure.
qualified, I think
Historians
specifically
and-
fellows in anti-Semitism.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I
great,
think
though.
there was like a guy on Twitter who I saw who's like an does
That's like his academic
anti-Semitism.
specialty. Yeah.
Yeah, and not like he's not like a Zionist. He's like a legit, just like studies like the Holocaust and like
Yeah.
whatever. I won't say the name because I haven't like looked into him too deeply, but anyway, that's just the sense that I get. But like when a lot of these new a lot of universities recently, since those hearings, have been starting up like investigations and
Right.
efforts to
And look, like we should
track
study
anti-Semitism.
we should study and track anti-Semitism. Absolutely. Like there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's weird when it's getting tied to anything that's anti-Zionist. I mean, that's the problem.
Well, the point that I was going to make is that it's anti-Semitism as is defined by its like crazy rabid donors.
Right. That's not
Like they get
chill,
to say
yeah.
like, oh, anti-Semitism is having an SJP on your campus.
Right.
So
Right.
so we're going to move money out of you and like, threaten you with our purse if you don't get rid of SJP. And we're just like seeing that that's happening a lot more
Definitely.
Yeah. So I have an article, talking about building some ethno-states. But this is an article in the New York Times about the founder of a company called Praxis. I don't know if you've seen this, but it's like this young guy who raised $19 million to build like a perfect utopian society along the Mediterranean.
Oh, geez.
And there's no like real like plans. Like there's no property purchase. There's no like this guy hasn't even built a house, but somehow he's going to build an entire city. And so
sounds like Saudi vibes, but at an individual level.
Yeah, I'm probably going to read quite a bit from this, but actually it is funny because...
Is this the article?
Yeah. So the title is "Who Would Give This Guy Millions to Build His Own Utopia?" Dryden Brown wants Praxis to be a crypto city for tech bros and taste makers. Just don't ask for details. And the immediate thought that came into my head was the Simpsons monorail episode.
Hello, little girl. Wondering if your dolly can ride the monorail for free?
Hardly. I'd like you to explain why we should build a mass transit system in a small town with a centralized population.
Young lady, that's the most intelligent question I've ever been asked.
Really?
Oh, I could give you an answer, but the only ones who'd understand it would be you and me. And that includes your teacher. Next question.
And just like $19 million, which he raised, is not a lot in terms of like, and it says this in the article, it's not a lot in terms of just like these companies, what they were able to raise, like Snapchat and like a lot of these like pre-IPO companies. There was a time when money was just like so cheap and there was just like an endless money spigot that for some reason Silicon Valley was able to control, and all these like VCs were able to just like throw money at stuff and then spin up the valuation to a point that was unsustainable. And then they take these companies to IPO where they're publicly held, and then suddenly we find out, oh, there's no actual business plan here. You just got caught holding a bag. But I immediately thought of the Simpsons monorail thing.
You know what I'm thinking about for some reason? I'm having a flashback to like two things. One of our very first podcast episodes where we just talked about like a really hilariously ill-defined business idea. It was something to do with like a box.
That was the second episode.
It was our second episode, yeah. And it also reminds me of, who was that woman that was like I watched the whole show. Anna Delvey. Anna Delvey, yeah. Just kind of like the power of like, if you have money, being able to get people to invest in something without any plan.
Yeah, but it's nice to have like an old school like snake oil salesman every once in a while.
Yeah.
You know, it's like good to have.
But he sounds kind of like Facebook-esque with the gray hoodie and the t-shirt.
Yeah. So I'm gonna read a little bit here. So, when Dryden Brown took the stage at a conference for startup societies in Amsterdam in October, the 27-year-old cut a rumpled figure moving stiffly in a gray hoodie with a t-shirt poking out at the bottom. He was there to tout his company Praxis, which has an ambitious goal to create a new city on the Mediterranean. The Santa Barbara native had never built a house before, let alone a city. A New York University dropout, he had been fired from his last job at a hedge fund. He's not a charismatic character or a speaker or an accomplished businessman. He's big on promises, light on specifics, such as where on the 28,600-mile Mediterranean coast his city will be. Nevertheless, he raised $19.2 million for his project, a paltry amount in the world of venture capital.
Okay, that might be a paltry amount, but still, why is anyone
19
giving
it's
money
still
to
a
this?
lot of
It's
money.
still a lot of
That's
money,
enough
yeah.
money for him to just like fuck off and be like, well, I'm not going to do anything. It's
Yeah.
the same way that, you know, this what was it, the Theranos lady just like got a little
Right.
too big for her britches.
Yeah.
Was trying to become a billionaire. If she just kind of stayed at like, you know, in the tens of millions,
Yeah.
she wouldn't be in jail right now. Skipping down a little bit. So yeah, he was very light on details, but they did apparently present some renderings, which I was surprised to see that they were done by Zaha Hadid Architects.
Yeah, that's too bad.
He was like a legendary Egyptian architect, but she's
Was she
died a couple.
Egyptian?
Yeah.
I thought she was Iraqi.
Let me look that up.
No,
real
I'm
quick.
sure
She
you're
might be
right.
Iraqi. You might be right.
No, I'm sure you're right. I'm
I
sure
think she's Egyptian.
you know your
Hadid.
peoples.
Oh, I'm gonna be so embarrassed. Oh, you're so right. Iraqi British. Oh, fuck.
All right, just general Arab solidarity.
Well, then never mind. I would expect that from an Iraqi kid. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I was surprised that like a big, but I guess if you pay them, they'll do anything. But it seems like a lot of work to be like, here are renderings for a whole city.
Yeah.
And also, now you can just go into whatever those AI things is, and it'll
Yeah.
generate you like a future. If you type, it seems like if you type in futuristic city,
This is like what he made.
its whole thing is just like roller coasters and swimming pools.
Yeah.
Is
Wait,
what
I
it
just had
tends
another
to do.
year-long reflection. It's also been a year, not a year, but this is the year that we started the podcast. Was 2023
We started it in May.
of 2023?
Yeah, but it hasn't been a year.
No, but it was this year. That's a
Mhm.
big thing that happened this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me skip a little bit farther down here. Okay. So on stage, Mr. Brown left the values of the city or whatever by which they're going to build it undefined, but an internal praxis branding guide makes it clear that the company is part of a creepy internet subculture that has drawn reams of news media coverage as a fascist breeding ground within the American right. The guide denounces enemies of vitality who reject what they consider the optional European beauty standards. It goes on to extol traditional European Western beauty standards on which the civilized world, at its best points, has always found success. Beauty here connotes proper breeding. In humans, beauty implies a number of things, namely that two people, themselves of beauty, formed a union to create more beautiful life, it reads. According to to several former Praxis employees who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they signed non-disclosure agreements, Mr. Brown had discussed wanting to attract tech talent to his city by introducing founders to hot girls. He threw lavish parties where computer nerds rubbed elbows with stylish members of a now infamous demi-monde that has grown up in and around New York's Chinatown.
Wait, so do they have actual land?
I don't think
It
so.
doesn't sound like it, right? Just like vibes.
No, it's just vibes.
Oh, if you drop down, this was hilarious.
Uh-huh.
Wait, where did it go? He was talking about the Black Lives Matter protests.
Did you see his picture, by the way?
Yeah.
Like he's wearing
Not
a
really a paradigm
Balenciaga
of beauty.
shirt and a pink visor, what are these things called? Is it a visor cap?
I don't know.
Like a tennis visor
Yeah,
thing.
it's
And I was just
not
like, I
good.
would not give this guy $10.
Same.
I'm super curious how these VCs get duped so easily.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they just have money to burn. It doesn't really make sense.
I feel like if I had to
Found
make a
it.
prediction, it would be this city, if it ever gets built, eternally at war with Neom.
The Saudi awful
city.
dystopia project.
Yeah, it's
may
like
they,
the two crypto cities.
may
just
they
warring
annihilate each
against
other,
one
honestly.
another.
May
Yeah.
no one be hurt, but may the cities just flounder
yeah.
together.
Yeah.
This paragraph is so funny. He's talking about how he was afraid of the Black Lives Matters protests. He thought he was going to be dragged from his apartment. So not just like, he thought someone was going to actively somehow hurt him.
Yeah.
And to clear his head, he rented a cabin in Alaska.
Yeah.
And that's where he started to plan a city based around a quote spiritual core.
Yeah.
I love that idea that like just being with models in like an all white state is going to be spiritually
And just
fulfilling.
thinking about beauty.
Yeah.
That's really cool shit. And also when I think about beauty and art and aesthetics and like, I do immediately think of crypto.
Right.
And like all
which
of
is
these
basically dead now.
NFTs. Remember how good that NFT art was? Like all those monkeys, like like a zombie monkey,
That
and then
was
like
so weird.
a monkey race car driver, and then also like a monkey that was like also ice cream somehow.
I mean,
Like
levels,
that was really
man.
good
Those are levels.
Western culture. And like
That was honestly probably the height of Western culture.
yeah. I have one other paragraph here or two. He described himself to Mr. Stone as neurotic and ambitious. He said he was homeschooled, which I guess explains a lot, so that he could pursue competitive surfing. Exposed to the classics by his tutor, he read Ayn Rand and the Austrian economists in high school. He said he was drawn to the idea of the charter city, a kind of special decentralized economic zone championed by libertarians, in which a poor host country leases a piece of land to a third party,
Oh, gosh.
which then governs it as it sees fit. As of 2023, the most advanced of these projects is Prospera on the Honduran island of Roatan. Oh, we gotta look that up.
Yeah.
Man, that is a terrifying trend.
Yeah, that's
just
scary.
a bunch of fucking libertarian
Way
cities.
to like spell it out too. I mean, they're not trying to hide what they're doing.
Oh
Yikes.
man, that is terrifying.
Prospera.
While you're looking that up, applying to only Harvard, Stanford, and Oxford and Cambridge, Mr. Brown was rejected by them all. He ended up at NYU, tried to transfer to Stanford, and was rejected again. Eventually, he stopped attending college and was hired as an analyst at a hedge fund. So clearly just touched by all the best parts of society, like an Ivy League reject forged in the fires of hedge funds.
Yeah.
And homeschooled. Yeah. But I just thought that this was funny. I don't know if there's anything else in here that's all that interesting, but yeah, it just seems like every once in a while you get one of these hucksters who just like either wants to infinitely preserve himself as an 18-year-old so he can continue to like have babies for 200 years, or Elon Musk, who's got like 11 children.
Yeah.
And like there was that couple like a year ago or something that was talking about like wanting to make sure that they breed like they saw themselves as like breeding like the perfect race or something like that, and they were also rich. It's just, it seems like there's a growing obsession with understanding that the world has a lot of conflict and like ugliness in it, but then the way that they try to solve it is by seeing themselves as like these ubermensch who are better than everyone who is like struggling around them, and then saying like, I should just eliminate all of these people.
It's just like, I mean, it's honestly just like eugenics and like colonialism with like a new, you know, crypto twist on it. It's like nothing new.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Prospera now. So weird. It's a private city in a special economic zone on the island of Roatan. It's got an autonomous zone with private government. So it exists. Residents have to sign the city's social contract and pay an annual fee if they want to live there. It sounds
I mean,
like
that kind of, you do that now, but
it sounds kind of like an HOA, but like for a whole city.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Huh.
I also love that they're like, oh yeah, it's a libertarian utopia because it's not owned by anyone. Meanwhile, they are getting investors from like Wall Street, and like again, hedge funds are funding this shit. So like at some point, if the city's not like making enough money or like putting out enough GDP, then the investors are going to like destroy it, right? Like, or what's going to happen is that you're going to move to the city and try to like live this free life.
Yeah.
But you're going to quickly just become enslaved so that they can continue to pay back their investors and shareholders, like so that they can earn a return on the city that you have. Like,
yeah.
just like,
it doesn't seem like the city's gotten very far, by the way.
I hope it works out. I hope someone gives them some land so that they can just like imprison themselves.
They got land, but like they're fighting with the Honduran government over taxes and stuff. It's not like getting a lot of traction.
Yeah.
So that's good. Yeah. Very weird.
Yeah. These VCs and hedge funds are not beyond like calling in like government authorities to like sanction or militarily occupy cities and countries.
Yeah.
So good luck with that. I actually, like I was saying, I hope they do. I hope it does work out. I hope he gets more funding and they start building it, because it would just be essentially just building a prison for all of these libertarians to like go somewhere else. Exactly. Yeah. At least put them all in one place. They really are the worst people.
See how
and maybe like Barry Weiss can
services.
open up a satellite campus for
that Texas project. Yeah.
For University of Austin in what is the fuck is this city called? Praxis City or whatever the fuck.
All right, what's your next item?
That was a story. I had this other thing that I meant to look at beforehand so we could talk about it, but I didn't. And it was a New York Times article about why aren't more people marrying? And then the answer is ask women what dating is like. And I was like, oh, this looks intriguing enough. And apparently like a lot of people have been responding to it.
Interesting.
We could try to look through it together if you want. Why do you think people aren't getting married? Or why aren't more people married?
I think a lot of it, when I think about Well, it's different reasons. I think at least partially it's also like economic. Like people are moving out of their parents' houses later, and like people have debt and like are still getting degrees. Like a lot of life has just kind of gotten pushed up.
Yeah.
When I think about like especially friends from where I grew up in New York City, like people can't really afford to live on their own. It's just like that part of life is coming later for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think a lot of things with dating culture are hard. There's a lot of kind of like idea of like constant access to people because of swiping. And I don't think dating apps are bad. I think it's a good way to like get more people in your pool. But it kind of creates the impression of like connection where there isn't sometimes. I think you can kind of get stuck on the apps and you don't really move off to real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think people aren't getting married?
My guess is that it's probably just people not doing well, not having the means to marry, and people seeing marriage generally as like a or like a decent economic arrangement as being a prerequisite for a successful marriage.
Yeah, I think I wonder, especially if you were raised with certain expectations of like being provided for or that kind of thing. It's a lot of pressure on different parties. I think also, I mean, in a more positive sense, I think we have more freedom to think about what marriage means to us. And so there's probably a level of intentionality that there wasn't before for some people, where it was just like, okay, it's what everyone does, so you do it. And now it's kind of something people are choosing more actively for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of women in particular maybe aren't settling the way that they would have had to like 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Which just means that they might be less likely to like, make that kind of deep commitment.
Yeah, it's true. Let's see. Okay. For as long as people have been promoting marriage, they have also been observing that a good man is hard to find. But what was once dismissed as the complaint of picky women is now supported by a raft of data. The same pundits plugging marriage as also bemoan the crisis among men and boys. What has come to be known as male drift. Men turning away from college, dropping out of the workforce, or failing to look after their health. Miss Kearney, for example, acknowledges that improving the economic position of men, especially those without college degrees, is an important step toward making them more attractive partners.
I think the corollary to this is also that women are more independent now, which is a positive thing. You know what I mean? Like there are less women who like have to get married in order to have in order to be provided for financially, you know?
Yeah, there's not that level of like being coerced by not being able to be like a viable economic earner on your own.
Right.
So now there kind of, it does have to be a little bit.
You got to bring something to the table.
Marriage.
If it's not financial, like emotional, love, something.
Yeah. I think on a personal level, I also just do feel like people get a sense of, there's like the cultural aspect that I think like the economic aspect of like why marriage seems to be falling, which I don't know if that's true or not, or if people are just like perceiving that it's harder to get married and that's what this article is kind of speaking about, or like they feel like they have fewer quality partners. There could be some class bias in there. There could be some things built into these surveys that are just like, oh, he's not a viable partner because he's not earning X amount or whatever. And like to that stuff, I would just say like being a little classist, perhaps,
I think it goes both ways though. I feel like I got the vibe, or I was told that like people wouldn't, like if you're overly educated, like not even just class, but if you're overly educated, you're less desirable as a partner, or like that would make people insecure or make men insecure.
I mean, I don't know. Like that seems like a weird thing to say because I don't know if there's like data to back that up. You know what I'm saying?
There is.
Is there?
Yeah, that like men are nervous about dating women who are more educated than they are, which many women are.
There's actual data?
I think so. Let me check. Yeah.
Okay. And then I think there's like a cultural aspect to it, right?
That's certainly something I've heard though.
Like I mean, it's something I've heard too, but like, what does that come from? Like I was attracted by the fact that you were more educated.
I know, and I'm grateful for that, but not everyone was.
Yeah, but like, would anyone cite that as a?
And
like,
didn't you even feel like you kind of had like a mental block? Like you didn't occur to you, like you thought it would be an issue, even though I didn't.
No, I thought it would be an issue for you because I was less educated.
Right. But I mean, why did you have that societal thought?
But that's different than me saying it's a turnoff that you are more educated.
No, I know. But I think it's still kind of out there in the ether and affecting the choices people make and who they go for.
But again, that's where like these kind of qualitative things, it's not like, oh, intimidated by you,
No, I
like,
know.
or
Yeah.
I find you less attractive that you're educated. It's like, oh, I'm almost selecting myself out because I think that there is that, the bias against like
Right.
someone from a lower class.
I mean, you were also made more than me, but yeah,
Yeah, but like like background is, I don't have the pedigree, and I also do come from like a
But I think even
poorer family.
the fact that you felt that way is not your own fault individually, but it's like a societal script that's gone awry.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the other aspect that I think maybe is contributing to it is, and we're not even really talking about the piece anymore, but
Yeah.
just our own thoughts, is I feel like there's like a culture kind of like shopping around and optimizing.
Yeah, but the thing that's interesting about that's kind of what I was getting back at with the dating apps. It's just kind of the impression of shopping around, but like there have been actual studies that are fascinating that we have like less sex on average than our parents. So it's like, it's the idea of like, yeah, like you could just swipe and hook up with anyone, but people aren't really fucking as much, and they're not even like dating or getting married as much because there's just like this idea of choice but no action.
I don't know. I also feel like people are having sex a lot, just like more casually.
They're not. Statistically, they're not as much as like people did in like the 70s and 60s. I can like back data for that.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not saying that they're like, we're a nation of like prudes or like Puritans. Like people are sexually active, but it's not as much as you have the impression of because of like the ubiquity of apps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people are on apps just swiping without actually meeting the people that they're talking to. It's kind of lonely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like people do like date around. I'm not saying like you should like obviously like settle for someone who doesn't make you happy, but I do feel like that sort of like you're constantly like swiping on people and like viewing people through pictures, and like there is like the mindset kind of becomes like very algorithmic, and like you.
But I think the thing is that you're not even really optimizing, because you're not actually meeting them in the first place. It's just like the idea of a person. It's almost like a phantom,
Exactly. You're creating in your head. You're creating this like image or idea of a person.
And again, I don't think the dating apps are bad. I think it is a tool that we have. But like for me personally, I feel like it was better to like meet someone in person as soon as possible for coffee and see if you clicked. Like otherwise, things just kind of die there. But
yeah. Actually, it does mention a little bit down here. There are policy solutions that can help everyone: family allowances to curb child poverty, child care to support working and single parents, retraining out-of-work men, higher ed reform for people who want to attend college but can't afford the cost. In the process, these policies might encourage marriage by providing economic stability. But to truly address the decline in heterosexual marriage, we must attend to the details, to acknowledge the qualitative aspects of relationship formation. And in particular, we should listen to the experiences of women who are attempting to find partners. We should care about the interior lives, not just the educational attainment or employment status of the men who could be their partners. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Yeah. There's like definitely the economic bit, but I think there's probably like a more. But I mean, who's to say what follows? I feel like if like there was an economic situation in which a lot more people felt safe and like. And just like not constantly under threat of homelessness or violence or whatever, like that does change a person and their outlook and how intellectually curious or free they might be, and that goes a long way to like what makes a person attractive or not attractive to you, and like you really get to discover. I think like the issue is that a lot of people don't have the space to even discover themselves. So like how are you as a partner or potential partner supposed to like be able to understand them and fall in love with them? And I feel like a lot of people
this is so cute, because I feel like this is like our idea of marriage too, but like it totally depends. Like people have such different visions of what marriage even means. Like for some people, like you get married primarily so you can have children, or like primarily because it's like the only option available, or like what you always were taught to do. Like it really just depends on how you view the institution, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. What else?
No, that's interesting. It's interesting that that's like a phenomenon.
Yeah.
That's it, my love.
Okay, we've done an hour.
I hope you feel better.
Thanks.
Our next and last episode we're really looking forward to, but it is kind of a sad, heavy one. But it'll be interesting, so we're looking forward to that.
All right.
Are you going to make any resolutions?
No. Are you?
I think my only resolution is to like not have as much screen time. That's it.
I'm going to try to vary the screens I do screen time on.
Like, what do you mean?
I'm gonna try to diversify. I'm gonna go for bigger screens.
You're gonna like make sure you really like switch it up between.
I'm gonna try to.
Do not put that on. You're cutting that. Okay, bye.
Bye.